morning and welcome to January's version of Mark Live. I'm live here at CBS Studios and I'm so excited to be here this morning for what I believe is a very important and terrific presentation for business owners. Now, today being Friday, January the 20th, today is Inauguration Day. And how fitting is it that we're going to be talking about how business owners can thrive under a Trump administration. And we have a lot of great information to cover today. The goal being, we want to prepare you for what I believe, is going to happen under a Trump administration, what things we expect to happen policy-wise, and how that's going to impact your business, and what you can do in order to prepare for the events of tomorrow today and maximize what I believe is going to be an opportunity for all business owners to really create some serious success and prosperity. You'll note, though, that there's going to be one thing that we talk about today that's going to be a barrier to many companies succeeding and thriving moving forward. We're going to tell you what that is and what you can do to make sure that it doesn't become a barrier to you. So, one thing I do want to say before we get started here is this presentation is meant for business owners. It is not a political discussion. I am not opining to any political parties. This is not about Donald Trump, whether you like him, whether you don't like him. He is the president. And under his administration, I do believe that the environment for business owners is going to be conducive to tremendous success. So when you're watching this, please don't send me any political notes or political emails, because that is not what this is about. Okay, so let's get started. Again, how business owners can thrive under a Trump administration. And let's first start with what we can expect from today's presentation. First, the potential changes to expect. And I will tell you that I believe there's going to be many. With President Trump being a very successful entrepreneur, successful business person, I believe that many of his policies are going to be tailored to make the business environment very positive, conducive to success, so that business owners have the opportunity to thrive and create potential prosperity. With that, though, we want to talk about the impact of these changes. What to expect under some of the policy changes that we believe are going to happen. The one barrier that will keep most business owners from maximizing success and prosperity. It's something that people are not talking about. And it's something that I have seen for about 2 years now. And it's going to get much worse. And you're not going to want to miss this. So please stay tuned for this. And finally, how to be one of the few business owners to maximize success and prosperity. And the reason I say that is the environment is going to be there, I believe, for business owners to thrive and be successful. However, the barrier that we're going to be talking about today will keep most from taking advantage of that. But we're going to show you what you need to do in order to maximize the success and prosperity that you deserve for your business. So let's get started. Okay. The first potential change to expect, and it is already happening right now, is optimism. Optimism, the psychological impact for people being optimistic or pessimistic, is extremely important. Just the fact that people are optimistic will lend itself to a much brighter business environment, just like the stock market. When people feel good about what they expect to happen, what do? They go out, they're more likely to go invest in their business, invest in infrastructure, equipment, invest in people, and that obviously will help the economy. And we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see that not only with business owners, small and medium-sized business owners, but look at some of the larger corporations like Ford and General Motors and Carrier, companies that at one time were going to be moving their parts of their production, their manufacturing, overseas. And what are they doing now? They're committing to keeping their plants here. Again, that's all about optimism because nothing's happened yet. As of right now, President-elect Trump has not become president. But just the mere fact that they believe, these companies believe, that the environment will be much more conducive to business owners has led them to make the decision to stay here. And by doing that, and by having people now feel like there's going to be more opportunity for jobs, meaning there's going to be more disposable income, has led business owners to start thinking about investing in equipment, research and development, people, and that's extremely important. Number two, tax changes. If these tax changes that Trump is proposing go through, we will see the biggest tax cuts since the Reagan administration. Let me step back for a second and talk about what tax cuts we believe will happen, and then we'll get into, on the next slide, the impact that that will have. What I think will happen is that, and from what I am reading, there'll be several tax changes. The first will be to larger corporations, whereby the tax burden will be reduced from the highest tax rate, 34, 35%, down to 15%. Now, why is this important? Well, we just talked about Ford, we talked about General Motors, we talked about the larger companies. This tax reduction is for C corporations, something that not a lot of people are talking about. They talk about the corporate tax cut, but the corporate tax cut really is the C corporate tax cut because S corporations and LLCs, limited liability companies, are taxed at the individual level. And for the majority of small and medium-sized business owners, that's where their taxes are paid, on the individual level. So let's go back for a second. So the larger companies, the companies that trade on the stock market, for instance, most of them are C corporations. And so when we talk about the corporate tax rate being reduced from 34 to 15%, that's what we're talking about. So larger companies now are looking at this saying, okay, let's keep our manufacturing, let's keep our businesses here because the tax burden is going to be so much less. Having said that, on the individual level, which affects the small, medium-sized business owners, these are S corporations, these are LLCs, there's been talk of cutting the tiers of taxes from 7 to 3, and that the individual middle class will get about a 5% tax reduction, with the upper middle class getting about a 19 to 20% reduction. So with having tax relief, obviously that creates more disposable income. That creates more cash, more profits to be able to be invested back into the business. And of course, when you invest that money back into the business, that stimulates the economy. Also, in addition to that, there's talk of other deductions that people will be able to take on the individual level as well, and changes to the estate tax and capital gain taxes as well, and a reduction of those. There's actually been talk of getting rid of the estate tax. So with all of these potential tax changes, this will be extremely positive, as you know, to business owners, and that money, that extra money, will be able to be used now to grow your business, to be able to put back and invest into your company. Okay, less regulatory burdens. As a business owner, you know what these regulatory burdens can do to a business. Not only is it expensive, but the paperwork that you have to go through is incredibly inordinate. So by having less regulatory burdens, that's going to create less of an administration or administrative nightmare, as well as not having to have barriers to go into certain industries or to do certain things that you might have been restricted to before. So, for instance, less environmental restrictions. There's even been talk of potential changes in the banking industry. One of the things that I would like to see is less restrictions in the banking industry so that it's much easier for business owners to have access to credit. I think that's one of the most important pieces missing from our economy right now, because if we have more access to credit, business owners will be able to use that to grow their business. And right now, it is so difficult to get a small business loan without having to personally guarantee everything. And even in that case, most people having to personally guarantee, they're still getting turned down. So I would like to see less regulatory restrictions in the banking and the mortgage industries so that people have access to capital. In addition to that, one of the things that Trump has said is for every new regulatory action put into effect, they're going to look to reduce or replace it with two. In other words, get rid of two more. So expect some regulatory burdens, less of them, to be occurring. And that's going to be huge for business owners. Next, repealing and replacing Obamacare. I'm one of many that still don't understand all of the rules and regulations with Obamacare. What I do know, what I do see, is that many small business owners, many medium-sized business owners have seen their insurance premiums raised by double digits year after year after year. And what that has done is forced business owners to cut back on the amount of benefits that they're giving to their team members. And of course, when that happens and the employees' team members have to be putting in more of their own dollars to health insurance, that creates less disposable income for them to go out and spend in the economy. So I would expect that this will be repealed, and I would expect that that will be repealed by the next time that we have our live presentation in 30 days. What I do hope for, though, is that it's replaced with something, because we don't want people to be uninsured during the time frame that it takes us to replace it. There's been a lot of discussions about opening up the borders or the imaginary lines between states to allow competition, which would allow companies to go out and bid their health insurance. There's been talk of increasing or putting more emphasis on HSAs, health savings accounts. So I would expect for it to be a better atmosphere or environment for business owners to be able to have less premiums, which will enable them to insure their team members more, giving them more coverage. And of course, when we do that, people will have more disposable income to go out and spend in the environment, in our economic environment. Repatriation of overseas dollars. This is really important. First, let me talk about repatriation and what that means. Over the years, many of the larger corporations, ones that are in the Fortune 500, have taken or set up subsidiaries overseas to defer their tax liability. In other words, because it's overseas, their profits are not taxable here in the United States. So essentially, they've set up offshore accounts. And all of those profits and all of the cash that has been realized is sitting outside of the United States. So all of that money has never been taxed. So you're talking about $2 to $3, maybe even $4 trillion that we've never been able to see the tax revenue from that. And the reason that they've done that is because of the high tax liabilities or high tax rates that have been imposed upon them, 34, 35%. So in order to bypass that, they've set up these subsidiaries overseas. Now, what the Trump administration, or what Trump has proposed, is a permanent tax holiday where you would be able to bring that money back into the United States and be taxed at 10%. That's a huge savings. 20%, 25% on the dollars that you have overseas, and that will incentivize companies to bring that money back here. So, if that happens, what should we expect to happen in our economy? Two things. First, by bringing that money back in at 10%, at $2 trillion, $3 trillion, you're talking about at least at a minimum $200 to $300 billion that is put back into the economy from the taxes collected. Then we would hope that that cash being brought back in would not just be sitting in the company to pay dividends to shareholders or to buy back stock. We would hope that part of that money would be used to invest in the infrastructure of these companies, would be used to increase research and development, would be used to expand into other locations, would be used to bring in more employees, increasing the amount of employment in the labor market. And so that would be the second piece that this infrastructure or this repatriation of overseas dollars would do to stimulate the economy. Next, $1 trillion infrastructure bill. This is a big one. Both Republicans and Democrats agree that we need to upgrade our infrastructure. And so the number that they're talking about is $1 trillion. So imagine if $1 trillion was put into our economy to build up, to create a better infrastructure for us. That's going to create many more jobs. That's going to create revenue for business owners who can win contracts, especially small business owners, that I'm sure there'll be some set-asides for small business owners. And so you would expect this $1 trillion to immediately impact this infusion of money into the economy will immediately be a very, very positive impact. Now, one of the negatives that people have talked about with that is, well, this is just going to increase the deficit. And I don't believe that's going to be true, because what they're talking about is creating public-private partnerships where there's going to be private money put into this as well. So it gives people an opportunity, or companies an opportunity, to create a return on their investment. How that's going to work, I don't know yet. But if they are talking about public-private partnerships, which I think is a fantastic idea, it's something I've been talking about for a very, very long time, then we shouldn't see that much of an increase in our deficit, and we should be seeing the benefits of having this money infused into our economy. And lastly, labor law changes. As you know, as a business owner, labor laws can be very, very restrictive. One that just was being talked about and was supposed to actually take effect in December was the overtime rules with managers and people who were exempt from overtime. And there was a limitation for managers and supervisors that they had to make at least, I think it was 27 or 28,000. That was supposed to increase to 47,000. That was going to be very restrictive to business owners. That was stopped for the time being. I do believe that the Trump administration will permanently stop that from occurring, which will help business owners be able to save money on those tax dollars as well. So I also believe that there will be fair labor changes with regard to the minimum wage being a working minimum wage. I do believe that will increase. I don't believe it will go to $15 as they were talking about during the election. I believe there will be something in the middle between what it is now and the $15. And of course, states will also decide what they believe is the right minimum wage as well. So the impact of all of these things, as I've stated and as I've gone through, I think it's going to be a haven. I think it's going to be incredible for business owners. It's going to create an environment where business owners are going to be optimistic, where they're going to feel like they don't have to worry about spending money and investing it back into the company and investing it in future labor and future technology and future equipment. And what does that do when companies open up their wallets to be able to put back into the economy? Well, that creates an environment that's successful, that's prosperous. And it's going to be important that while all of these changes are happening, and I believe they're going to be very positive for business owners, there is one big barrier that's happening now that's going to get worse. The labor market. What I have seen over the last 2 to 3 years is a big demarcation between the labor supply and the labor demand, especially in the trade industries. The trade industries don't have enough labor supply to support the demand needed. This is also in service industries as well, such as restaurants, accounting firms. Many people are going into technology, but the trades and the services, they're not going into that anymore. The millennial generation is just not going into those industries, and that's creating a real problem. And I've seen that happening with many of the companies that I work with all over the country. And so what happens when there's not enough supply? And there's a tremendous demand for that. Plumbers, HVAC technicians, restaurant service people, construction, carpenters, all of these trades, all of the people that are in these trades are going to be able to name their price. And so it's going to drive up the amount of money that they're going to require in order to come work for a company. They're going to be sitting in a fantastic position. And this is going to continue and continue and get worse and worse and worse, because as companies succeed, as they need more labor to support the infrastructure, to support the growth, it's not going to be there. And that's going to put a real limitation, a real barrier on their ability to grow. So what do you do? Okay, there's a couple of things. And this is how you can be one of the few business owners to maximize success and prosperity. First of all, never stop recruiting. Always continue to look to recruit and to look for those avenues that no one else is looking in. In other words, what I mean by that is, you know, the labor websites, that hiring websites that you can go to and post a listing. Everybody's using those. You've got to look to find those little crevices, those little areas that no one else is looking. One of the best places, I believe, is to create a spiff for current employees to continue to recruit others to come into the company. That seems to work extremely well. So make sure you look at that. But never stop recruiting. Now, with regard to never stop recruiting, never, ever, ever, ever stop concentrating on retention. And what that means is making sure that your team members are happy and glad to be a part of your organization. And there's lots of ways to do that. First, you've got to start with the hiring process. When someone comes in for an interview, you're most likely going to be competing with many other companies looking for that same person. So you've got to stand out. You've got to shine. And one of the ways to do that is to implement the power of gratitude. Power of gratitude, what the power of gratitude is making people feel extremely important, making them feel like a VIP, making them feel like they are the greatest thing. And that starts at the hiring level. When they come in, telling them how excited you are for them to give you the opportunity to interview them. And then talking about the environment of your company, the organized effort, the teamwork, how you create an opportunity for everybody to succeed to wherever they want to go. You'll help show them the roadmap to success, to better their career. And it starts immediately at the hiring level. So they feel great. They're excited to start working for you, and you're separating yourself from every other company out there, because people still look at the interview process. Companies still look at that as, okay, we're interviewing you to see if you're good enough to work for us. You can't look at it like that anymore, because the power is now with the employee, the potential employee. So you've got to be doing your best job to sell them, assuming they're qualified, well, why it's so great to be working for your company. Then we go to the retention of current employees, current team members. Now, this is extremely important. Business owners are going to need to be great leaders. And in fact, if you go to the website as a member, I've just written something that I think is going to be, or I know is going to be very helpful to business owners. How to win by leading with compassion and enrichment. You're going to have to lead with compassion and enrichment. You're going to have to show your team members how important they are to the company. You're going to have to share the goals of what you want to achieve in the company to get everybody behind you. You're going to have to show them how they can be successful individually, showing them the roadmap to success, helping them to evolve into a better employee, helping them to evolve into promotions. And I always tell business owners, really, you should look at it as a team member has two different directions to go in. One, they can continue to proceed and have the opportunities to grow in a company, be promoted, become a leader. That's not always going to happen. People do want to make career changes, go back to school. I call that a positive separation. But even so, anybody that leaves and the ones that you have staying, you should be able to ask for positive testimonials. And so one of the keys that I recommend is either on your web page, Facebook, whatever it is, start accumulating testimonials from people who have worked and are working for your company. What our team members say, because you can use that for potential hires. You can send that out to them so they can see what it's like to be a team member for ABC Company. In addition to that, with retention, you want to make sure that as a leader, you create the atmosphere that is conducive for people to have a stress-free work environment. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that if somebody keeps messing up over and over and over again, that there isn't some repercussions with that. You simply may need to part ways. But create the organization that is an environment where people can succeed, where people can feel good about working with others. The definition for me of a great team member is not one who achieves their own goals, but one that helps other team members achieve theirs as well. And that's the environment that you want to set up. That's the secret sauce here. That's the secret weapon that I have been advising my clients all over the country and people that I present to all over the country as to what it's going to take to be successful in the future. You need to create that environment and lead with compassion and enrichment, and you need to make sure that you retain. Power of gratitude, as we talked about, is not just for team members too, because many of you might be sole proprietors, okay? But you might use, instead of employees, independent contractors. Again, I believe that market is going to tighten too, because as there's more opportunities for independent contractors, their plate's going to fill up. So you want to be one of their vendors that ensures that they want to work for you. In other words, you want to be at the top of their list where you're not searching for new ones over and over and over again. What that means is showing them how important they are to you, paying them on time, creating an atmosphere where they feel like they're part of your team. And it doesn't stop there. Vendors as well. Again, there are going to be companies that get really backlogged with work, and they're not going to have the labor to support the business they have. In other words, they're not going to have the infrastructure to support their growth. And with that, you want to be one of the companies that's at the top of their list. You want to be someone that's appreciative of them. the power of gratitude with vendors is very important because you want to have a partnership with that vendor. You don't want to be you don't want to have a relationship where you treat your vendor like, I'll get to you when I get to you. You're lucky to do business with us. That's the old way of doing business. Today, you need to treat it as a partnership. You need to pay them on time. If you're going to be late, let them know. Communication, extremely important. Tell them how much you appreciate them. All of this is extremely important, and that's why the power of gratitude is one of the most important things that you can implement in your company. And we'll talk about that more and more during these live presentations, because the power of gratitude starts also with customers and how you can utilize it with your customer base. So, having said that, today though, we are focused on the labor market and why this is the one area that you're going to need to concentrate on. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our presentation today, and a lot of great information. So what do you do next? I would highly recommend, and I would be honored, if you would become a part of our Prosperity U family, where you can get this incredible information about the latest topics, the latest trends, how to be successful in business, staying ahead of the so-called competition, what you need to do to create success in your company, how to lead, how to make sure that your company is prepared for the events of tomorrow today, how to use the power of gratitude, and so much more. Because immediately when you join, you're going to be given a litany of incredible information that you can access immediately. All sorts of classic books that I've put on our website that you can download, videos, and information that I've already produced for you. How to conquer fear, how to conquer worry. You're also going to get Abe's Final Masterpiece, my book, the audio version, for free. You're going to be inundated with incredible information that you're just going to want to just drive into to create that, to feed your mind, to create that desire for wisdom. Additionally, for the life of your membership, you're going to be getting things daily, weekly, and monthly. On the daily side, you're going to be getting motivational messages from me every single day. When breaking news stories happen, when there's something that has happened in the administration or something that has happened to the economy, you're going to be the first to know. From a weekly standpoint, we're going to be producing weekly videos for you. We call those our 90-second symphonies, lessons and philosophies and strategies that you can use to succeed and prosper immediately. You're going to have access to incredible webinars on social media from our expert Kathleen Dorsey, webinars from our experts that you'll find in Prosperity U on insurance and technology, on how to write a book, on how to create an incredible website and where to host it, on succession planning, everything that you can imagine. And finally, from a monthly standpoint, you're going to have access to these live presentations, which are going to be only just for you. You're also going to have access to our Mark's monthly playbooks, incredible playbooks that you're going to be able to have access to and read, ones that we've already created on how to win by leading with compassion and enrichment, how to win by creating and achieving your roadmap to success. So much information. We're going to be here right for you to help you to succeed and prosper. I'd like to think this is the greatest business website in the country. We're going to give you so much stuff, you're going to be thrilled. So please take the opportunity, become part of the Prosperity U family so that we can give you the lessons and the philosophies and the things that we believe will make you successful and create the success and prosperity for you in the future. And finally, don't forget about Abe's Final Masterpiece. That's my book that I've written, getting great reviews all over the country. Again, you'll have access to the audio version for free once you join Prosperity U for a very minimal investment every month. But go to the Prosperity U page and it will tell you everything that you need to know. So I want to thank you for being part of today's live presentation. If you've missed it, you'll have access to pulling it up on the website and reviewing and watching this anytime that you want. Again, I'm Mark Luderman, live here from CBS Studios, and I look forward to seeing you next month.